Narrator, serious tone. Imagine a system so powerful that it can make nations rise or collapse without firing a single bullet. A system that doesn't need armies to control people, just debt. For 300 years, humanity has been living inside a global experiment, one that began as a clever financial innovation and slowly evolved into the most efficient trap ever built. It promised growth, prosperity, and progress, but what it really created was dependency, manipulation, and invisible control. Every dollar you earn, every loan you take, every government budget in the world traces back to a single idea, born in the 17th century, an idea that turned money into debt and debt into power. This is the story of how a 300-year-old banking experiment became humanity's greatest trap. Section 1. Origins, the birth of an idea. Visual, 1600s Europe. Merchants, ships, ledgers, and the first banks. It all started in the chaos of Europe's early empires. War was constant. Kings needed money, fast, but their gold reserves were running dry. In 1694, England was broke from endless wars with France. Out of desperation, King William III turned to a group of private financiers with a radical idea. What if, they proposed, we lend the crown the money it needs, not in gold, but in credit, and in return, we'll be repaid with interest, backed by future taxes. That moment birthed the Bank of England, and with it, modern central banking. For the first time, a government didn't need gold or silver to fund itself. It could borrow against the future, promising to pay tomorrow what it couldn't afford today. It was brilliant and dangerous, because now money wasn't something real. It was a promise, and promises can be manipulated. This single innovation, creating money from debt, became the blueprint for every major banking system that followed. But no one could yet see the long-term consequences. When you make debt the foundation of wealth, sooner or later, everyone becomes a debtor. Section 2. The Rise, how debt became the engine of empires. Visual, Industrial Revolution, growing cities, banks expanding, global trade routes. Over the next 2 centuries, this idea spread like wildfire. France, the Netherlands, Germany, even the newly formed United States all built their economies around central banks and credit-based money. The logic was simple. If money could be created through lending, then lending could create infinite growth. Banks discovered a secret formula. For every dollar in gold they held, they could issue several dollars in paper, because not everyone would redeem their notes at once. This was fractional reserve banking, creating money from nothing, backed by confidence and trust. It worked spectacularly. Empires expanded, industry boomed, populations soared. But beneath the surface, something sinister was happening. Every loan created new money, but also new debt. And while money could be printed, interest could not. That meant the system always needed more borrowing to survive. Growth wasn't optional anymore. It became mandatory. Governments, corporations, and individuals were all trapped in the same race, chasing money that didn't exist yet, trying to pay interest that could only come from future debt. The economy became a perpetual motion machine, beautiful, efficient, and utterly dependent on constant expansion. The trap was set, and no one wanted to stop it because everyone, from kings to commoners, was addicted to its power. Section 3. The breaking point, when money stopped being real. Visual, 20th century footage, stock crashes, world wars, Bretton Woods, Nixon's 1971 speech. By the early 1900s, the cracks were visible. The Great Depression exposed the dangers of over-leveraged credit. World War I and II forced nations to borrow like never before. To restore global order, world leaders met in Bretton Woods 1944 and created a new system. The U.S. dollar would be the anchor, backed by gold, and every other currency would be pegged to it. For a moment, it seemed stable. But in 1971, President Richard Nixon faced a harsh reality. America had printed more dollars than it had gold. So he made a decision that changed everything. He ended the gold standard, cutting the dollar's link to real value. From that day on, money was just paper, or, more accurately, debt backed by faith. Governments could print as much as they wanted. Banks could lend without limits. And inflation, the silent tax, became the hidden cost of the system. In that moment, the 300-year experiment reached its most dangerous phase. Money no longer represented value. It represented obligation. And the more debt created, the more control shifted from governments to the private institutions that issued the credit. The world had entered a new era: fiat money, unlimited debt, and invisible control. Section 4. Fallout: the world built on perpetual debt. Visual: modern skyscrapers, debt charts, poverty lines, politicians promising growth. Fast forward to today, and the results are staggering. Global debt has exploded past $350 trillion, more than 4 times the size of the entire world economy. Every country is in debt. Every corporation depends on leverage. Every citizen is chained to loans, credit cards, and mortgages. We call it progress, but it's really financial dependency disguised as prosperity. Because when money itself is debt, freedom becomes an illusion. You're not working for wealth. You're working to pay back borrowed time, and the cycle keeps feeding itself. To pay old debts, we take new ones. To sustain growth, we print more money. To calm markets, we inflate bubbles. Then, when those bubbles burst, governments bail out the same institutions that caused them, using money borrowed from the people. It's not a mistake. It's the system working exactly as designed. A 300-year-old machine, still running, still trapping, still feeding. Section 5. Failed fixes: why we can't escape. Visual: economists debating, protests, digital currencies, central banks printing money. Throughout history, reformers have tried to fix this system. From gold-backed currencies to economic resets, even cryptocurrencies. Every attempt has promised freedom from debt and manipulation. But the truth is deeper. As long as money is created through lending, someone must always owe. Even digital assets are being absorbed into the same framework, traded, speculated, and often controlled by centralized exchanges and regulations. Central banks now talk of digital currencies, CBDCs, programmable money that could track every transaction, every purchase, every movement. It sounds efficient, but it also gives the system unprecedented power. The experiment isn't ending. It's evolving. And the more digital our world becomes, the tighter the trap closes.